2, 1. Hey, how's it going, you caffeine addicts? We're back again with another Whole Bean podcast, the most caffeinated podcast on the internet. As you can see, I'm actually in frame this time. We've got ourselves a nice little setup here. Yay! Very special guest with us here today. Someone I consider a coffee pro, probably informed most of my decisions about coffee in my life going forward. Got my dad, Ned Scrivener.
Hello.
Welcome to the Whole Bean Podcast. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Good.
So it's I had my caffeine early this morning. I'm probably due for some caffeine, but
You due for some?
maybe I don't know.
At 6?
Yeah. So we talked about I only typically drink caffeine in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's late afternoon now. So I'm really not due till tomorrow morning.
Some people like having coffee later in the evenings. That's like the standard like coffee savant take I've heard is that all the cool kids drink coffee after 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Those are the cool kids that don't have to go to bed early.
People around my age who are expecting to stay up late.
I'm at the age where I need my sleep now. But I'll be honest, I don't think coffee... I'm not saying that it doesn't keep me awake, but I've never noticed that if I drink coffee at night, that I get the jitters or keeps me awake.
Mm-hmm. You ever... are you past your... caffeine addiction? I feel like most people, at least people that I've talked to who like worked in coffee shops and stuff, they went through a phase of like a lot of coffee every day and then fell off hard and can't do it anymore.
No, actually, I've kind of always been, as long as I can remember, a morning coffee person. The only time I drink coffee at night, there's two situations. Maybe a family dinner, special occasion to go to offset some dessert, and or, again, in the morning, but it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night at Waffle House. Because, we just got back from the bar and we're starving.
I gotta offset all the drinks somehow.
So no water, I can't drink water and booze at the same time. So the coffee is to get that last bit home to keep me awake long enough to drive back from the full belly after a good night at the bar.
It's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because, I will not, if I've gone out to a party or something, I'm not going to go to a coffee shop to go get a coffee to offset it. No. I'm getting breakfast somewhere, and that's standard Folgers, whatever brew they have. Whatever brew they have at Waffle House, that
whatever
hits.
They got.
That is the best coffee you will taste in your life. And I know I talked about on the last episode, coffee posers and, don't drink Folgers and all this and that. Sometimes... when you don't have somebody telling you it's bad, it's great.
So that's interesting. That made me think of something. So as a kid, I have a weird coffee. It's not a phobia, just the way I was introduced to coffee. Mm-hmm. As a child, my mom, grandma, was very social. And as a child, I didn't have a lot of kids in my neighborhood, didn't have lots of people to play with, so Mom would take me with her to socialize with her friends. Mm-hmm. And so I got my own coffee to drink, because that's what the ladies did, is they sat around and talked and had coffee.
Gabbed together and drank their coffee.
Yeah. Drank coffee. So I was given my own special pot of coffee, which was laced with copious amounts of sugar and cream. Mm-hmm. So what some people refer to as baby coffee, right? So I think that ruined me for coffee forever, because even the espresso that I make, I still cream and sugar. I don't necessarily cream. My cream has sugar in it, but not as much as baby coffee.
Right.
Just enough to kind of
Not pouring extra sugar into it on top of it.
So I think that's ruined me as far as black coffee goes. I don't think I could ever, after however old I am, in my mid-50s, I don't think I'll ever revert to a black coffee.
Yeah.
But you know as well as I do that I typically don't brew coffee to drink. You know what I brew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every morning, so
no Americanos for you?
No, not typically. I think probably what I make every morning would probably be considered a long shot.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yeah, yeah.
A long shot, because I know I leave my shots go way too long, but I want a good strong coffee, because I really would like to have my good strong coffee buzz,
I think,
in the morning.
And I think I use a little more creamer in mine than you do, but we make essentially the same drink every morning.
Right.
I think that's a latte, I think is how I would call it, because it's definitely not a cappuccino. And you're not pulling, like, because it's a mixed drink.
I thought it was more like a macchiato.
I guess.
Now, somebody who is an expert,
and
I don't claim to be an expert, would say, no, a macchiato is. I'd have to look it up and see. But I thought that a macchiato, and I could be wrong, I thought a macchiato was espresso and a dollop of cream.
Excuse me.
Do you remember from your Giddy Goat?
Not really. So that's the thing is, like,
does anybody ever come into Giddy Goat and order a macchiato?
Not that I remember.
Right.
No, it's all lattes, mochas,
right.
frozens. So like, I do remember, like, getting really confused the first couple of days, like, working there about, I don't know anything about an Americano or a cappuccino or anything. I don't know all these names and whatnot. And then everyone there was just like, "Don't worry about it. Nobody gets those anyways." You get. I think I can count on my hands the amount of times we got an Americano, and I can count. I think maybe twice or three times somebody got an iced Americano. That's it. That's it.
That's interesting, because you kind of think about, So I never quite understood the Americano. I mean, I think I get it. You're looking for the quality of the espresso shot, but just want it watered down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a watered down espresso.
Yeah.
Right. Versus, as you said, Folgers, right? Or whatever your current grind of whatever may be much better than Folgers, better than whatever, something fresher. And maybe that's it. It's the freshness of the espresso with the water for the Americano. But yeah, I don't get it. I'd rather have the espresso.
I would rather not drink the black coffee at all if I can manage it. And especially to me, like, it's just a little bit of water in Americano too. It's not like an equal part it's like a spritz of water,
right?
Yeah,
2/3 and a third.
Yeah. If
I remember correctly.
So you're just spritzing it with a little water. Anyways, it's
been a long time since I've been in a coffee shop.
You can tell we get along in our coffee opinions as we immediately talk about, like, it's not really worth it with water. It's not. Yeah.
Right.
Do you remember? Like, your first time drinking coffee?
Yeah, I mean, not specifically the very first time. Again, as a small child, I was introduced to this baby coffee. And as long as I can remember, I've always had baby coffee available to me in that situation with my mother and her friends. And she may have made me baby coffee when friends came over. To entertain me, and so I could be a part of what was going on.
The group,
the discussion. But I don't remember being like a coffee drinker in high school. Like, I don't remember, like, I got to get my coffee to go to school.
Okay.
Or I need coffee to enjoy my day or get my day started. So I don't think I was ever really, in need of what coffee can do. And then I had probably so I have an allergy to coffee. And what I should say is I was in my mid-20s when I was introduced to a higher level of coffee than just, the standard percolator brew at home. And it took some kind of persuasion to get me into, say, espresso, because all I had experienced up to that point was typically coffee made my stomach hurt. And I didn't learn till after I got into espresso and the coffee business that I was in for a short time, of what the difference was, and of course quickly learned that, gas station coffee or the gas station cappuccino machine, it made my stomach hurt. I didn't know why. I just assumed it was an issue with me, but once became a little more educated, I found out probably one of the biggest reasons.
Didn't take
why.
too many cups of it to realize what was the problem.
Well, I'm pretty sure that I have some type of issue with
coffee.
With ground coffee.
Poorly ground coffee.
Poorly ground, old, rancid.
Badly roasted.
Rancid.
Badly ground. Been
Coffee.
Sitting there
Rancid
for way
coffee.
too long.
Rancid coffee.
Yeah.
Let's just say it. It's rancid coffee.
I will say, out of some machines, it's not as bad, but that's just because they've mixed it to be a whole bunch of other stuff.
Right.
Like when you go to sometimes before I go to D&D, I'll go and grab something from the gas station right across the house over there on 72. And that's fine. I don't know why the machines always...
At Casey's?
No, not at Casey's. What is the one right next to the roundabout? Over by the Subway? Next to Jimmy John's?
Oh.
That one. I can't remember the name. Anyways.
Yeah.
It always comes out way too hot. I don't know why machines still do that. There was the whole McDonald's incident a million years ago, it feels like. I don't know why gas stations still pour them out piping hot. But it is baby coffee. I think people have realized
thin,
it.
right?
Yeah, it's thin. And it's very processed. There's a lot of extra stuff added into it.
Right.
So I think that's the offset is people finally were like, oh yeah, we can't just give them this swill of whatever. We're gonna have to actually make it flavorful. So they put the machines in, and then they just dumped it full of creamer and sugar.
So speaking of processed coffee, have you ever had a cup of Sanka?
A cup of Sanka? No, I don't think so.
So instant coffee. So just add water. Yeah, that was a thing. I guess it still is a thing.
I still do it, but I think most people who go for instant coffee usually get Keurigs and stuff. Have you ever had Keurig before? Coffee pods are
very
all right.
Very few. Pods have the same kind of effect. I still get that processed, make my stomach hurt. So as you well know, at home, I only drink ground bean right then. I grind my beans, whether I'm making coffee in the coffee pot or pulling a shot, right? But I just learned that a long time ago that the pre-process, the ground That's typically an issue for me. Although there is something to be said for a cup of Sanka. It brings back childhood memories. We had Sanka in the house, so I don't know why Mom had Sanka in the house. I guess maybe I actually think she had a carton, a canister of Sanka for I think a chocolate cake recipe called for Sanka. Some instant coffee. Yeah,
And it turned out good.
my I know you don't. I
Nostalgically
know
good?
you don't remember, but anything of baked goods that came out of the Scrivener kitchen was
Came out pretty good.
Yeah. That's a whole subject in itself of Mom's cooking.
Kind of vaguely remember the first time drinking coffee, or at least I think I do. And the reason I remember it is kind of funny because it's also where I first got scared at horror movies.
What was the horror movie? Do you remember?
I know exactly what the horror movie is.
Was it Chucky?
Let me get to it, damn it! You can't cut me. I'm getting to it. I'm building up my story. So yes, it was not the first one. It was Child's Play 2, and I specifically remember the scene for anybody out there who's seen the Chucky movies. I was absolutely terrified of that doll for forever. Fair enough. Charles Lee Ray is a serial killer possessing a doll's body through voodoo magic. That's terrifying, okay?
Yep.
That first movie is a masterpiece in horror. It is terrifying. It was Child's Play 2. It was, they went to the toy factory, right? To get away from him. They go to the good guy factory.
Yep.
And there's the one guy who falls on, and I remember us like sitting there, and you had made a pot of coffee or something, and I think Landon asked me if I wanted some.
If you wanted some coffee.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, and he'd be like, it'll stunt your growth.
Right.
Being all whatever. And I was like, no, I want it. Give me a cup of coffee.
It's a good thing because you'd be like 6'11".
And he brings it in, and it must have been like some horror movie marathon or something. But he brought it in, and I remember taking that first drink of black coffee and being like, ugh, gross.
Sure. Yeah.
And then looking over at the screen and seeing Chucky go over, slice this dude, and then he gets his eyes replaced with toy versions, and I'm like, oh. Nothing was going my way that morning.
That's
it was
funny.
just, but then I think I went up to Mom and I'm like, this doesn't taste good, and she's like, hey, do you want some creamer or something else instead? And that was that, and that started a long line of me immediately knowing I don't like black coffee,
Right.
and I thought I wasn't gonna like horror movies, but
Right.
yeah, here we are.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I
I don't know why I knew it was Chucky.
You could just feel it on the. I mean, that was the one
knew.
that I was scared of
that
for the
was one
longest
that you-
time.
It's funny.
So we've kind of alluded to it, and I wanted to get to it specifically in this episode. I've worked in a coffee shop as a barista.
Yep.
You actually opened up a coffee shop and ran it with people for a while. What was that like?
So I can't quite remember when. It would have been in the early mid 90s. I think probably about 94 or 95. It was before Mom and I got married, so we knew each other at the time we were dating. And a friend approached me. For those who don't know, I've been a kitchen designer since about 1987. And I was living here in Rolla. I had moved back, and I was working at a company in St. James designing kitchens. And I was really fed up with my situation at the time. So I had a friend of mine who had also moved away, a friend from high school, had moved away and had moved back, and he and I kind of got buddy, reconnected. And he said to me at the time that he was interested in opening a art gallery slash wine slash coffee shop. And the idea is we'd get local artists to fill the walls with paintings, and art, sculptures, whatever. That we would sell those there. We would essentially be a coffee shop, and also maybe at night, kind of change from coffee to wine or beer. And he was looking for someone to help. And with my knowledge, he had found a place and it needed an extensive remodeling. At that time, pre-Giddy Goat, there was a
way back when.
Yeah, way back when. Where the Giddy Goat was originally before we got into the business, there was a coffee shop in the same place that Giddy Goat used to be in. It wasn't called the Giddy Goat. I don't remember what it was. There was a guy that had a coffee shop, and he had decided to give it up, and he had all of his equipment for sale. So we basically bought his espresso machine. Right. I don't remember what the brand was. Doesn't matter. It was a big commercial unit, four-head machine.
Nice big one. Looks like a spaceship.
Yep, big spaceship. Yeah. And it worked pretty good. We had to do a little bit of maintenance to it, but for the most part it worked. And, of course, the new location, filtration, water, and all that stuff. But so I originally got onto this venture because I was upset with where I was working, and I needed a break. And that couldn't be anything more opposite of
what you were doing at the time.
What I was doing at the time. And it was kind of a nice break from that. So in the process, even though I was brought in as a partner, my main job was to renovate the place. We matter of fact, if you does it matter where it was? Do you know where it was? Did I tell you?
I remember you telling me it was on Pine Street, right?
On Pine Street, it was the building that has all of the mural on the side, which is now.
I don't even remember.
Peace of Mind. Peace of Mind's in there, right?
Well, not anymore.
Oh yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah. But that was specifically where it was. And there was nothing in there at the time. I don't even think there had been a business in there for quite some time. Used to be. Originally in Rolla, it was a grocery store. It was called Northside Grocery back in, who knows, 1918 or whatever, 1923.
In the olden days.
In the olden days. So anyway, my job was to paint the walls, build a bar, in between the idea of art gallery, coffee, and wine, we decided that we'd sell some food also. So I designed...
Like baked goods?
Well, we did some baked goods, but we were actually serving lunch.
Oh, okay.
And dinner, sort of. It was really kind of a real basic food idea. We had two different spaghettis, a red spaghetti and a white spaghetti. We did, cheese and grapes and crackers, and we had some easy things to make that were tasty and delicious. Super limited menu. I think there was like 5 things on the menu. You could get a salad or 4 of the other things, and that's what we had. But the big thing was coffee. And at that point in time, I was in between or pre-espresso. What I mean by that is I was still, I don't drink a lot of coffee because it makes my stomach hurt. And then the learning process of being a coffee shop, because, I'm going to have to make coffee. I'm going to have to learn how to pull shots.
How to make the coffee.
How to make an Americano, how to make a macchiato, or if anybody asked. So that was an intense training, so to speak, of, what do we do with this big fancy machine? Well, how does it work? And then all of a sudden,
How do they work?
Yeah, I got a pretty good idea how they work.
Spent a whole year at the college. I still don't know how it works,
I'm pretty
man.
sure I know kind of how it works. I'm not confident enough to tear one apart and clean a boiler, but
And put it back together.
yeah. Well, I've got bad experience with that. So when I pull things apart, they typically don't work when I put them back together. But so that was my first introduction to the world of espresso, and of course, I would think that the high percentage of people that have that kind of experience of being introduced to espresso from just brewed, percolated coffee, unless they have somebody that likes fancy coffee or not fancy coffee, but better quality,
Right.
probably would experience kind of the same thing that I did is that, oh, wow.
It's sort of an eye-opening experience.
It is absolutely an eye-opening experience because it changes the way you think about
coffee.
coffee.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
so my attitude towards coffee really changed, and that was probably the start of my true addiction, because I can honestly say that I do have a addiction to coffee.
So it started when you started working at the coffee shop?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
your story's the same as everyone else's.
Yeah.
Every person who works at a coffee shop
Yep.
will get a caffeine addiction while working
Yep.
at the coffee shop.
Yep.
Every time, without fail.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And that was a problem for me because the business, it was weird because the business quickly changed with our attitudes, and it did well with lunch service, and we got a lot of coffee customers because at that time I don't think there was another place to get an espresso in town at that time. We certainly didn't have any Starbucks. It was still kind of mom and pop coffee shops. It was still kind of an odd thing because being rural America, I'm sure there were Starbucks, in other places, but certainly not here.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even think there was another place to get an espresso here in town. There might have been one.
Not even at the college? No.
Not that I'm
really.
aware of. I mean, because again, the college place was that guy that we bought all of his stuff. That was right next to Centennial Hall, right where where it used to be originally.
Yeah.
The Giddy Goat was.
Yeah,
It wasn't the Giddy Goat. So
that's where you got all your beans and stuff, right?
Well, we didn't get our beans. So our beans came from a food wholesaler, and we were talking about this the other day, and I kind of thought about it, and I cannot for the life of me remember anything other than us serving Lavazza. I'm almost positive now we serve different kinds of Lavazza, but I think that was our main brand. I think our regular coffee was Lavazza. I think we kind of catered to or brought them in and used them as our baby, so to speak, of that brand name Lavazza, and used that probably almost exclusively, because I don't remember us having other brands of, oh, you should try this mountain grown roasted by Ethiopian babies, I don't know,
Yeah, go try our Yirgacheffe in the back. It was roasted on the top of a mountain by a couple of dogs' babies under the morning sun. Yeah, it's great. It's got notes of dirt.
Yeah, notes of dirt, notes of toe fungus. Yeah.
I love hearing people talk about notes in like super obscure coffees and stuff, like deep dark Ethiopian blends, and they're like, oh yeah, it's got notes of like
Monkey
dragon
feces.
fruit to it or whatever. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are you?
Dragon fruit. Yeah.
Why? It's coffee.
I taste a hint of monkey feces in this. This is really good.
I love
I
this.
love this. Yeah, I've never had that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We had a couple of extra like blends and stuff sitting out at the Giddy Goat, and that always made me laugh. We would usually have two things of regular percolated brewed coffee. We'd have like a lighter and a darker roast where people would just go in the back and get a cup and can refill. And they always had the weird names, and we'd write the notes on the cans sometimes, and that always made me laugh, looking at all the different stuff that we had. I think for the coffee posers, for some reason that really draws them. I think like people who are trying to prove something with coffee really just want to make the most bitter thing imaginable, and then go like, this is what coffee's supposed to be. This is it. This is real coffee. They're like, I don't think coffee's supposed to be like that. I've talked to you about it. I think coffee is supposed to be a mixed drink. I think you're supposed to add stuff to coffee.
Right.
To deal with it. Whether or not it's a light roast, a medium roast, a dark roast, there's something that you're supposed to cut your coffee with in your drink.
That's interesting. So all of a sudden I had visions of Dances with Wolves. When Costner like makes coffee for his new friends, and they drink the coffee and they're like it is and he puts the sugar in, and he's like, get away from my coffee. What are you doing?
That in there.
And then he like, no, and then he puts the sugar, no, taste, and and the smile on Kickingbird's face when he gets a little sugar, and then they start piling the sugar.
Yeah, keep throwing it in there.
Piling the sugar into the coffee. I don't know why I just thought of that just now, but yeah, that's a great scene.
So, and how long were you guys? How long did that
So
business
that was
go for?
again. That was a weird deal. So we served lunch and we served coffee, and I'll never forget like the first day we were open, and I was like rushing around because the coffee machine still didn't have the water or didn't have the right electricity or something. It was something beyond my real.
Area of expertise.
Yeah, my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And we got the machine going, and first customer, and I'm pretty sure the first customer you're talking about how McDonald's and the scorching thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was the complete opposite. Like, this coffee should be hot.
Oh.
We're like, okay, we'll work on that. We'll try, because we didn't know about thermometers and stuff, and we probably didn't get the milk frothy enough.
The espresso
and
machines
hot enough.
look like a spaceship.
Yeah.
And they kind of function like one too.
So it took
a lot.
It took a minute to kind of figure out how to
get in the groove of
things. And that was an interesting time because the place was, for Rolla, man, it was super cool. There was nothing like that because I credit myself and my partner because we'd been somewhere else. I lived in New England for 7-8 years. He lived in California for 7-8 years. We both kind of wound up back here at the same time, and we really kind of had a more mass critical area kind of attitude, right? A more metropolitan attitude. We were more accepting of all walks of life, and both of us couldn't understand why Rolla has this and still does and always has never really catered to their students. So that's kind of the crowd we were going for, is we were catering to students, but we were also trying to cater to downtown just as to thrive as a business.
Right.
So we were serving lunches and we were serving coffee, and we were playing chess in the back room, and we were rolling our own cigarettes with fancy tobaccos, And so we had a smoking lounge, and some people would come with their pipes and buy tobaccos and flavored tobaccos, and we were playing chess and drinking coffee and being all intellectual and looking at art, and we were culture, and we didn't care who
This isn't a coffee shop; it's a cafe.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
So, but there wasn't any place like that in Rolla, and the weird thing is this came about really quickly. Because we were culturally a little more accepting, we probably ran off some local business that probably wasn't quite as accepting to hanging out with college kids, drinking coffee and getting all hyped up, and playing chess and having intellectual thoughts and
doing
whatever.
The things that cafe kids do.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there just wasn't a place for the kids really to do anything like that. So we got all the kids in there. We got locals too. So to progress a little bit, the idea was well, what are we doing at night? Because our night business was pretty slow. Most people don't really come in for espresso at night, at least not in our place.
Right.
And we thought, well, let's entertain these kids. So we started bringing in bands. Kind of started out a little folky, guitar and a singer, and then we realized that we could pick up traveling bands that were out trying to make a name for themselves, being between Springfield and St. Louis. A lot of these bands would have a night in between or on their way to, and we could feed them, and we could give them a little bit of money, and they would come in and play. And some of them were rock and roll, some of them were alternative, some of them were, indie, some of them were folky, and it just kind of depended on what. But we could get these guys, they were no-name artists trying to, make their way
layover past you guys.
Yep. And so we started bringing these bands in. Well, I was already in a band, so I had the equipment, so I'd run sound for these guys, and ska was coming about, and we had this
third wave ska, baby.
Oh man! So
Let's go.
So I'll never forget this. One night we had a band come in, and they were named the Skoidats. And they were full-on ska band. I don't know why that's funny, but they were badass.
Oh, that's awesome.
They were a great band. And coming from me, you know me. I do not give praise
to
bands in general. Just in general, right? Because I'm Simon Cowell when it comes to any
live performance.
I'm like, yeah, that sucked. Self-indulgent rubbish. Self-indulgent rubbish, yeah. But these guys were pretty good. Matter of fact, they were so good. I'll never forget this. They took a break, and I was so impressed with them. I'm like, all right, you guys have not played this. Can you guys play One Step Beyond by Madness? Which is no lyrics. It's just the band.
Yeah.
And they were like, we don't do that. But hold on. And they went back in the kitchen to take a break, and they're like, and they're like, bah, 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 and they're all practicing.
Figuring it out.
They come out and
kill it.
Just killed it. And I was like, that was like the most awesome thing. So I'd never forget that. So we started getting these bigger bands and stuff, and it was more band. We had this one rock. I mean, real heavy kind of rock. It wasn't metal, but I never forget their drummer just absolutely. You know how some drummers just absolutely beat the crap out of their drums.
Like they're trying to break their sticks.
They're trying to break their skins.
Yeah.
This guy was so loud. The band was really cool. It's like this 3-piece band, but their drummer was so loud that I didn't have enough PA to get the vocals over his drums. And this little teeny tiny. I mean, my God, the open hand was as big as this.
That was the name of the shop.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah,
the open hand.
Yeah. So that was another problem also with the name. Some of the locals didn't appreciate the name. What is
the open hand?
What does the open hand mean? Does that mean like hand job, or people are people is
don't
we thought we were saying all are welcome.
Right.
The open hand.
The open hand.
Right.
Anybody can come in.
Right.
Get a cup of
so
coffee.
we had a big controversy about it. So this is kind of funny. So that mural side. Where all the signs are and everything. So we had an local artist come in and did a mural on that brick wall, and the open hand was spelled with human figures, making the two people are a O, and one's a P, and the other one says, well, they were male and female figures. Mm-hmm. They were not clothed, but they were not necessarily anatomically correct.
Yeah.
They were like, if you had what are those little mannequins, or the little dolls that you can move and manipulate.
Any standard action
anybody in the art world knows what these little figures or these little mannequins are called.
Yeah.
They were like it. So they were painted in flesh color. Mm-hmm. So you could say they were nude, but there weren't any nipples.
Yeah, there wasn't any
junk hanging off of any of them, right?
Yeah.
And little old ladies would come in. I can't believe you have nude people on. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself,
how do you miss the point that bad?
Yeah, maybe they're nude. I guess they're flesh colored, but I mean it's really kind of difficult to tell the difference between the female and the male, and the only difference is she had kind of a bigger chest,
a
kind of rounded,
smaller waist,
very animated,
a little more hourglass-esque.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was kind of the start of the downfall. Was that? But anyway, so we started getting these bands in, and these bands were rocking, and all of a sudden our wine and beer sales were taking off, and they're like, beer and wine makes more money than coffee. We need a new store, bigger, with a stage and a dance floor, so we can sell more beer and wine to people, and because the nightlife was more profitable than the coffee and the lunch business and the art.
Right.
So within a year, this place moved across the street, and I renovated another building that had a stage and PA and dance floor and all that. And the coffee kind of
just got phased out.
It just kind of withered away. The machine sat there, and nobody wanted coffee anymore. They were more interested in booze and bands. But what was really cool about that is that we were still getting these up and coming bands. So and some of these bands went places. So it was really cool to see these bands in this really intimate kind of setting, and
much more personal setting.
Yeah, much more personal, because it was still a small place. So we moved directly across the street, which is now the Uptown Bridal, which at that time there was a shoe store in there, had been long gone, and the space hadn't been rented. So we renovated that and started selling beer. And at that time, our thought is we had to be different again, and we were the only place in town that sold any imports. Not any, but our main focus was imports. We had 2 domestic beers. We had Bud Light and, I don't know, some kind of Michelob, maybe MGD on draft or something like that. Those are the only 2 domestic beers we had on tap. We had 14 or 16 taps, which was a lot back then. Not like Hoppers has got, 64, Jesus, I don't know, 120. And microbrews were kind of coming up at that time also in the mid 90s. So we had a few microbrews and mostly imports. Which that was when I realized that Heineken is a totally different beer out of a keg than
In the bottle.
Yeah, I had or a can. I'm like, no, I hate Heineken. Heineken's it's yuck. No, try this. What? That's not even the same thing. So I didn't even know that was a possibility. Because Bud Light tastes like Bud Light in a keg.
Bud Light always tastes like
in a
Bud
bottle.
Light.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bud Light tastes. Of course, that's crap beer anyway.
Yeah.
So my education level of beers also took off at that time from my education of coffee and then my education of beers later on. But yeah, that didn't last very long. It was about 2 years in total of the Open Hand being this art gallery coffee shop to full-fledged nightclub to its demise quite quickly. And I think our demise was just because we catered to kids. It was really kind of weird because it was a real weird local kids.
It's hard to keep a business up that is like that you're supposed to hang around in. I think at least here, it feels kind of weird because like I don't think any of the cafes like right now are necessarily struggling, but having a place for, like you said, that caters towards the kids here, where they have a spot to actually hang out and like spend time in. It seems like those take a lot more effort to get up and running and to stay running. They tend to lose out. Like I remember Pixelated.
Yeah.
That was just a place for people to hang out, go play video games, and it did not. I think 5 years tops.
Surprisingly, 5 years.
Yeah, surprisingly 5 years.
Yeah.
I miss
Somebody
that.
was really holding on to their social club.
I miss that Minecraft server
Yeah.
so bad. I would do anything to go back to that Minecraft server.
And now, how many coffee shops are in Rolla?
There's Giddy Goat. There's the one over by the
Pie place, Emo's.
Yeah.
Scooters has got a new place right across the
Scooters.
street, and there's a Scooters in the hospital.
Yep.
Yep.
I think there's a couple of there's the one coffee shop that's next to the student center over by Havener.
No, it's gone. They're running those.
It's gone? I didn't
think
know
so.
that.
I think that's where they're running their robot delivery service out of that building. I'm almost sure that the sign's down Abu Par.
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about. I've heard people talk about it.
I'm not very good with French.
Me neither, and I took 3 years of it.
Yeah. But that's gone. I just noticed that the other day. I think that's where they run the little robot delivery service out of. But still, I mean, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 coffee shops and supposedly, probably doing all right. I think I've never been in the one across from Emo's, but I know that the Giddy Goat still kind of has a hangout vibe, right?
I would say it's the most cafe style place that's here. It's got some art up on the walls. You can buy a couple of succulents. It's got different bags and beans and stuff to get. It's probably the closest to a cafe that we have here.
Right.
I think Runespool Games was gonna do something with that spot. That was
the old top hat bar pot.
Yeah. I think they were going to turn that into a cafe because they have the signs there. But I don't know if that's still happening. If that's on hiatus.
Do they serve espressos there?
At Runespool? No, not right now.
No.
It's all board games and stuff.
Yep.
But I do remember them having plans.
I'm still waiting for them to start like doing Risk tournaments. I would so be.
You should go talk to the people there. I'm sure you can set it up.
Yeah.
The people there are super nice. It's a really nice spot. So there's some sort of hope for the future of turning that place sort of cafe style because it is a very much hangout spot.
So the thing is from a owner's perspective, one of the things that I found is like I thought that's why we were talking earlier. One of the first complaints we had as owners in trying to create profit, which we never did. That was one of the reasons why it only lasted a couple of years is because we never really created any revenue. And I think that's typical of a lot of places. I know this is true in the bar business, is that a lot of people that start bars probably really don't have a good business sense of how a bar should be run. I would venture a guess that at least with all bars that fail quickly, was started by somebody who wanted really to just start their own social club. And then there's a problem with that, because if it's a social club, then all your friends come. Your friends go, oh, I want a beer for free, and you give them drinks, and y'all party all night. Well, you haven't made a damn dollar,
Right.
because all you guys have done is
your
just
only clientele is people that is your friends and stuff.
And we had some issues with that, but one of the first things that I noticed, and this made me think back to you talking about the coffee should be cut with something, right? We were like, what do we do about the sugar? We went through so much sugar, we just couldn't possibly
keep up with the amount.
It was like, do we raise the price of coffee? Not everybody's having coffee with sugar, but we're, I all I can imagine is this one guy I knew, that came in all the time, and I could just see him spoon. I don't know if he did it or not. I never watched him, but it's just like, it's like, you want, the old adage, you want some coffee.
You want some coffee with that creamer, with that sugar?
Yeah. So the cream and the sugar, but it was really the sugar, because sugar was probably the most expensive part of that. But it was like, we were getting eaten alive with the cost of how much sugar we were giving away, so to speak. So, that was interesting. But yeah, why coffee shops don't work, or I'm not saying they don't work, but a lot of coffee shops have a really hard time, because if you're in a cafe style, or a sit down and hang out, it's kind of like, you're not changing seats with another coffee person if it's full and there's no place to sit down. You don't have a big place, you're just, people are taking up space just hanging out and drinking coffee. And really, how much, if you're just
how much can you monetize on that?
You just, it's a weird thing. It's a cool vibe,
right?
I mean, don't get me wrong, man. Some of that, when we first opened the Open Hand and that art gallery and that coffee shop and playing chess and smoking tobaccos and stuff, man, that was fun. Man, that was fun. It wasn't as fun as the bands that we had, and when we got really, drunk and had that side of that
there during the nighttime.
That was a lot of fun too. So it was a fun time in my life. I was still pretty young, and I hadn't married your mom yet, and so that was a lot of fun. All of those things were, of course, I was ready for that change. So it seemed like, no, this is great, but we never made a dime. I never made a dime. I was struggling, but I was having a lot of fun struggling.
So on that note, we're gonna have to close up here.
Yeah.
We're already a bit over time. Do you have any tips for people who want to open up a cafe or open up a coffee shop? Like, what's the main thing you want them to leave this episode thinking about?
Put a lock on your sugar. Just kidding. That's something that you just don't think about. I think so. Everybody has an opinion. I certainly have an opinion about everything, and it's easy to be on the outside and look in and say you should have done this or you should do that. I think if I was to venture to do that again, I think probably one of the most important things in any business right now, as far as food service goes, we'll consider this food service, is keep it simple. Right? If we're talking about coffee, keep it simple. Get a good bean, or several good beans, however you want to do that. Make it easy for people to ask questions, or make it so easy that they don't have to ask questions. So if they're buying product, versus just, the iced latte or whatever, you can go to any coffee shop and get that,
Right.
I think, like, the idea, and I don't really go to Starbucks, because one thing we didn't talk about, and I was kind of hoping how I offset my addiction, when I offset my addiction at home, But it's kind of weird how that, and they've done well with it. But the idea of how Starbucks, I don't go to Starbucks, but the idea of the Café, Mocha, Frappa, soy, non-fat, whatever,
Able to customize it however you want.
right? I'm like that seems crazy, but I know it's a thing, and so I think it's just people that really don't like coffee that want.
Something that is way too expensive and way too sugary.
Right. Well, and it's just so hairy.
No offense to anybody who got the unicorn drink, but you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy.
So
that's not coffee.
That's so Harry Met Sally and her giving the order of with this, that, and keep this off, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so tip is keep it simple. If you're gonna serve food, keep it simple. You don't have to have elaborate. Try to please everyone. We can't please everyone. We can try our hardest. We can be nice to people. We can say nice things, but if you don't have it, you just don't have it. If you get enough call for it.
That's that second P we talked about in episode 2, personality. Personality and persistence, I think, are your big 2 things in your business. Personality. Pick something that you like. Go for it.
Yeah.
Follow that to its end point.
Yeah, and I think also this is important too with coffee shops. If you're looking for the personality, if it ain't you, get somebody. Because the way I see it, and I know I'm totally wrong. I have not done well to create wealth in this world. But if you're looking to try to create wealth, I think that's very difficult for a mom and pop coffee shop.
Yeah.
You need to. If you're the guy that's opening the coffee shop, you're the one that probably needs to be there. And after you start getting employees and stuff, you probably still need to be there because people kind of want that.
Yeah.
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 That's the personality of the coffee shop because coffee shops come and go. Coffee shops have most world wars have been started in a cafe. Because of the stimulus, and it probably started with a game of chess. And somebody was pissed, right? Yeah, you think you can win here? I've got
wait and see.
I've got 100,000 men waiting at my beck and call. I mean, I don't know if that's common knowledge or not, but I'm pretty sure that's reliable information that most wars have been started in a cafe over coffee.
I didn't know that.
Or while drinking coffee.
Yeah.
That's some tidbit that somebody gave us when we first started in the coffee business. So that would be kind of my 2 rules of thumb is you said it, personality
and persistence.
Yeah, personality, persistence, and make it simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Starbucks.
Efficiency will help you a lot.
And if you can bake goods and do a good job of it, or find somebody that does a good job baking goods, you can't just have coffee. You got to have something else. The idea that we had worked really well. We had this really simplistic menu. We were doing, muffins and stuff like that also. And I think we bought our muffins. I don't think we had a kitchen, but I don't think we were cooking our own stuff. We were doing lunch and, things like that, stuff to eat. Kind of like how the public house used to do. I don't know what they're doing now.
A nice little shop. You got your art and your food and all that. And
it was very intellectual at the first of it was.
Yeah.
And cultural. Maybe a little too much culture for Rolla. Maybe. But it gave a place for all the people that were really into it.
Right. A place to hang out.
And hang out.
Yeah.
And and spend their money and have a good time. It was fun. We had a good time.
That's cool. I've heard a little bit of that story, but it was really nice to actually get the full picture on it.
Right.
That we're definitely over our time here.
Well, I tend to run at the mouth. So.
We might have to cut down on our episode a little bit.
Maybe we could get a second edition.
Would you like to come on for a second episode?
We can talk some more about it.
Absolutely. There you go. There's another episode ready.
We can talk about homebrew.
Yeah. That'd be perfect. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the Whole Bean Podcast. Thank you guys all so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Hope you're happy to actually see my face in this episode. Catch us on Spotify, on Apple Music, on YouTube, all under Whole Bean Podcast. And also come check out Luth Coffee on Instagram. I don't think we're going to have a Twitter handle anytime soon, but yeah, we got at Luth Coffee or just at Luth on Twitter? Instagram. Nobody uses it anymore. So. But yeah, thank you guys all so much. Hope to see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.